Hello, I'm Scott Thompson, and welcome to After 10. Imagine attending a lecture at a prestigious university in the United States while you're thousands of miles away in Korea. Thanks to technology, that's now possible. And it's not just attending the lecture, you can also take exams and earn certificates. On today's After 10, we are joined by Hwang Meena, Director of Community Outreach for the OpenCourseWare Consortium, to hear how it all works. What started as a way to give people free online access to all MIT classes, OpenCourseWare has transformed to offering free online lectures as part of an effort to share knowledge and make the best educational use of the Internet's potential. Starting at Korea University in 2007, a variety of lectures by famous professors are being provided online here in Korea. We are now living in an era that allows us all to take courses at prestigious universities abroad if we have a passion for learning. On today's After 10, we are joined by Hwang Meena, Director of Community Outreach at OpenCourseWare Consortium. We hear more about her efforts to provide a new model for the dissemination of knowledge and for the collaboration among scholars around the world. Ms. Hwang, thank you very much for being on the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Now, this term OpenCourseWare is a term that some people may not be all that familiar with. Tell us what OpenCourseWare is exactly.
Okay. Well, OpenCourseWare is free and open educational resources online for everyone to use. They're usually high-quality university-level materials organized as courses.
And a lot of that is lectures, correct? People can go online and look at lectures.
Right. Lecture videos, lecture audios, syllabus, course calendars. So in a way, it's a snapshot of what the course looks like in the classroom.
Now, some people may hear that and have a little bit of confusion about how that differs from what free online courses do. What is the difference between the two?
Right. So many people do ask me about the courses on iTunes U. So on iTunes U, there are free courses. OpenCourseWare uses open licenses. That's a major difference. What open license does is it lets you use the material and it lets you redistribute the material, which means you can freely give it out to your students in the classroom. You can also make derivatives of it, which means you can translate, you can just mix it everywhere in any way you like. So you can mix a video from MIT course, mix it with some other materials from the Stanford course, and make it into your own stuff. And again, redistribute to the world.
It sounds a bit like sharing, education sharing.
It is. So you can think of it as a common commodity or the commons, where people freely take from it and you do something else with it, put it back into the commons for everyone else to use.
So let's say I myself am interested in doing this, in checking out a lecture from MIT, let's say. What do I do? How does the process work? And in the long term, beyond that, how does it work as well? What do I get out of it?
What you get out of it is totally up to you. So if you go to Google and just type in OpenCourseWare, you will be directed to many courses on our website, ocwconsortium.org. You can also search for a course that you would need. Now, it depends. You can do whatever you want with it. You can use it as a learning tool as a self-learner. You can use it in your classroom to teach. You can use it to review or preview a course that you'll be taking. Actually, with some licenses, some open licenses, you're even able to sell the materials after making some kind of derivatives from it.
So this is not just about extending an education or extended learning, right? It's also about getting certificates too. I mean, this isn't just about going online and seeing a lecture. Actually, there's a tangible result that can come from it as well, correct?
Yes and no. OpenCourseWare is a courseware, so you can think of it as some kind of resources. On the other hand, you might have heard of MOOCs, massive open online courses. That's the most hot issue right now. MOOCs do award you with a certificate upon completion, and that may be something that you can use on your resume, or it may not be something that you can use on your resume. We'll still have to see, but that's the new part that's coming up.
And we're certainly going to talk about MOOCs, but before we do, let's talk about your consortium, the OpenCourseWare Consortium. What exactly does the consortium do right now?
Okay, so in the beginning, we started off as a loosely formed community. We were kind of like a support group for one another. In 2008, we were incorporated in the state of Massachusetts as a nonprofit. And our goal is to, of course, promote and propagate OpenCourseWare and the whole idea of open. We work with institutions who are interested, research organizations. We work with governments so that they can have open-friendly policies. We also work with intergovernmental agencies. We work with UNESCO, COL a lot. We work with even individuals who are just ready to get into the realm of openness. So that's our partners. What we do is we have open courses. We also work on open textbooks. I don't know how familiar you are with the cost of textbooks now in the States, but they go well over $200 per book.
Right.
Introductory statistics, introductory economics, English composition 1, the very basic courses, and their textbooks are that expensive. So in America, more than 60% of students wait on buying a textbooks just because it's too expensive. And that's one of the things that we do, having an open textbook that students can freely download from. And we're talking with many professors to use open textbooks more in their classrooms.
And what is the ultimate goal then of your consortium? What are you really trying to do in the long term?
So we are fairly new, right? This whole OpenCourseWare is only a decade old. The consortium is only a couple years old. So in a way, it's very difficult to talk about the ultimate goal other than saying that our mission is to advance informal and formal learning through the use of OpenCourseWare. And
the reception so far has been pretty positive. I mean, you have quite a number of universities and programs that are taking part. Tell us a bit about that.
Yes. So we have about 260 members in the consortium worldwide. We have mostly members from North America, Europe, and Asia. Not so many from Africa or Southeast Asia, as you can imagine. We would like to work more with institutions from developing countries, of course, not just for them to use whatever materials out there, but to produce OpenCourseWare as well, so that they get their own materials that are fit for their context and their culture. And that will be fed back into the loop and the whole commons that I was talking about. And that'll be some kind of, so that exchange will allow for more evolution and fun stuff to come.
You mentioned the consortium is sort of in its early stages right now, but you are getting responses, of course, and you do, as you said, have 260 organizations taking part right now. What have the responses, what has the reception been like so far about what the consortium is doing?
I would say extremely positive. I get a big welcome wherever I go. I do travel quite a bit, and we get letters, emails from everywhere. Self-learners thanking us for doing something so wonderful. We get letters from inmates from a prison saying that this is how I'm getting out of prison. This is how I'm preparing for my future. We get letters from this engineer from Haiti saying that with OpenCourseWare, he was able to solve many problems that his country was facing, and which in turn helped out his business as well.
I mean, when I hear all of this, it sounds sort of like democratizing education to a degree, right? You're reducing the cost of education, and you're making it available to more and more people through technology. I mean, that's really an important thing, is it not?
Right. Many people do use that word, democratizing, partly because it does reach out to more people. It gives people more access, and also because more people can participate in producing the materials. Students are now producing the materials with teachers. So it's all about collaboration, trying something new, and just moving forward with making education more possible and more accessible.
If you were to look down the line, down the road to the future what do you see as being the future of OpenCourseWare and the way things are going now?
Let's see. So things develop really quickly, so I really have no idea what the future holds for us. However, the statistics has it that by year 2025, the demand for higher education will double. That means about 200 million kids will want to enter universities. If we are to meet that demand, we have to be building a university, like one university every week, which is not possible. So it would be great if OpenCourseWare and open education, along with MOOCs and any other type of things that we're doing, can meet that demand.
And you have said before that you believe Korea can play a leading role in promoting OpenCourseWare throughout the world. How so? Why did you point out Korea specifically?
Right. See, Korea has a very interesting history. As you know, right after the war, it was the poorest country in the world. In only 6 decades, now it's 13th or 14th largest economy in the world. There's so many countries out there who really want to replicate the success or emulate that economic growth. So when I talk to them, like even in Kenya, we were talking about what they have in store for their economic growth, and they really wanted to learn about, 새마을 운동 and all these things that happened here. So if we can have courses that are geared towards emerging economies, more simple and practical courses that we had in universities in the 80s maybe, that would be a very fun project. Also the fact that many people do want to learn Korean culture and language, and if we can open that up as OpenCourseWare, I'm sure that'll be very well received.
And there are Korean universities taking part in OpenCourseWare right now. What sorts of programs, courses are they providing right now online?
Okay, so we have 22 members in the consortium, and there are many other universities who are participating in OpenCourseWare in Korea. What's really interesting about Korea is that in Korea, OpenCourseWare is a government-led project for many. So CARIS has a website called KOCW. CARIS is the e-learning arm of the Ministry of Education. Whoever gets funding from CARIS to do e-learning has to put up their courses into KOCW as OpenCourseWare. There has been a major funding for universities who are willing to transform their teaching and learning practices, and in return for the grant, you have to be participating in OpenCourseWare. So with the help of the government, many more universities are doing OpenCourseWare. So that's what's really interesting about Korea, and many countries are very interested in how that policy came into place.
Now you mentioned something earlier called massive open online courses, or MOOCs, that are being promoted now. Basically, participants get tested by the university and then can earn a certificate, correct?
Yes.
Tell us a bit more about these open online courses.
Right, so it's, as I mentioned, it's really a hot issue right now. Partly because with OpenCourseWare, there are just resources where you cannot be tested, there is no human interaction, and there is no certificate. With MOOCs, they're usually short modules of studies. You have a short quiz, and then you get a certificate upon completion. Of course, it's not a perfect system yet. There is a huge hype, so many people register, but a very small percentage end up completing the course, maybe between 2 to 4%. So it'll have to change in many ways. We'll have to consider pedagogical factors more. We'll have to see why with learner analytics, we'll have to see how people interact with open online courses, etc. However, it's definitely a new movement, a new initiative that is worth talking about.
These certificates that people can earn, what are they exactly? What sorts of fields and areas are they in?
Okay, so there are courses in many different disciplines, and the certificate itself is just a self-printing certificate that you have online. So there are many articles in the news about whether you can use this as a real credential on your resume. We'll have to see. We'll have to see if that informal learning does get some credit from companies and employers, but we'll have to keep trying.
You mentioned some of those concerns, those questions about whether these certificates are going to be honored by perhaps employers or people who might be looking at them. What steps are going to be made, I guess, in the future to sort of make sure that these certificates are legitimate certificates and viable to people who are looking at them?
So I think it'll be safe for you to regard all that's happening in the sphere of open education as some kind of ecosystem, right? Little things happen, and nobody really knows what's going to happen in the near future, but it's definitely moving towards a certain direction, right? We're talking with many accrediting bodies, we're talking with many institutions, so that these certificates can be more valid for people to use. We're talking to accrediting bodies about having people gather all these different certificates and credits and have them use that towards completing a degree. We're talking to many people about how these can be used more in a vocational training, just so that people can advance their careers. The conversations are just going on in many different places, but it has just not happened yet. So maybe in a couple of years, you'll be seeing a lot more changes. But for sure, it's opening up more opportunities for people.
And this is not only something that can help people from afar who are trying to learn maybe from overseas. It actually can help people who are attending the university as well. How so? How does that work?
Okay, so that I'll have to go back to OpenCourseWare. So with MIT, you see all the courses open online. That means the whole curriculum, the whole school is open, right? So a teacher knows what the students took before coming into his or her class last semester when he takes a look at the syllabus that's open online. Students have a much easier time doing academic planning because they know exactly where the path is going. And students also have really good resources to preview and review. So having digital resources online does have great impact on teaching and learning practices.
And also reinforcing what they're learning,
Yes.
I imagine, as well.
Yes.
It's clear what the benefits are for the students. What benefits are there for the universities that are taking part in this?
Okay, so that can be a little controversial because we don't have one right answer. Let's see. Many universities talk about the marketing effect. For example, University of California, Irvine, they use their OpenCourseWare as a teaser for their real program. Their extension program gets a lot of students who had experienced their courses through UCI OpenCourseWare. Now, university rankings are something very important for every university in the world. Traditionally, they used to be big comprehensive universities on top: Harvard, Oxford, Cambridge. Very recently, MIT placed on top. MIT is an engineering school. It's a fairly small school. For them to be placed on top means something was very different. Something came very differently to people who were evaluating MIT. Many people believe that MIT got such great reviews on their peer reviews just because of OpenCourseWare. So what used to be a great engineering school became the engineering school. So that's one benefit that MIT talks about. And the former president of Kyoto University said that the best part of OpenCourseWare is that teachers work harder just because it's all open.
More people are seeing what they're doing.
Yes. So we can talk about transparency, we can talk about the marketing factor, etc. So with the will of the top leader of universities, you can make it work for you and your institution.
The interesting thing in hearing you talk about all of this is we're talking about technology, we're talking about education, and the melding of those two. This really is a logical step with where we see technology going. How do you see that relationship? How has it evolved, I suppose, over the past several years, and how do you expect it's going to evolve in the coming years?
Okay, so people who work in the internet always talk about the 4 factors: contents, platform, devices, and network. So these 4 are really important in developing OpenCourseWare. In many parts of the world, still people have a very difficult time downloading OpenCourseWare because their network infrastructure is not as good, or their devices are not as good. We had many discussions on platform when OpenCourseWare first started, and now with various developments with technology, it's getting solved. So these 4 factors, evolving and advancing together, it's a very important thing for us.
If things are to go the way the consortium sees them going 20, 30 years from now, how do you envision people will be learning from these higher institutions? Is it going to be a different playing field? What is it going to look like if all of this sort of happens the way you expect it will?
Okay, so for years now, many professors have been saying, aren't those the people who are trying to take my job away? But I don't think that's going to happen. Traditional universities have their place in education. We're talking about another part, another realm that we really have to serve. Of that 200 million students who have to enter higher education, most of them are from emerging economies. They don't have access to education. So what we can offer them through OpenCourseWare, through massive online courses, or just whatever that might come in the future. Now that's something really exciting. We have room for much more diversity in education.
And you're the Director of Community Outreach for OpenCourseWare Consortium.
Yes.
What is your ultimate goal personally when you look at the landscape now with the way things are going?
Personally, oh gosh, my personal dream and goal have always been to educate as many as possible, because education is one of the basic human rights, and for somebody to be denied of their right to be educated is just not right for me. And I do believe, and that is why I'm in this right now, I do believe that OpenCourseWare does have a role in this.
Hwang Meena, we do appreciate you very much for being on the show, sharing your insights. It's an interesting topic, and we look forward to the future and what it holds for you and your consortium. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you, as always, for watching. We'll see you next time, After 10.